Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm the Takanome, and welcome to my humble slices of the internet that are my Twitch and YouTube channels. How is everyone doing today? Hope that you're having a good day today. Maybe this week has been a pleasant week, and if that has not been the case for you at all, or even just a little bit, hopefully this reading stream could be a bit of a bright spot to your day. Now, tonight, we are going to continue reading the book Clockwork Twist, Book 11, Faith, by Emily Thompson. Now, for anyone who may be wondering, who is Emily Thompson? Allow me the opportunity to read their bio to you. So, who is Emily Thompson? Well, they are a non binary author and artist originally from Northern California. Although they adore steampunk and all things Victoriana, they also write science fiction and fantasy. After studying film and animation in university, Emily changed to a Japanese language focus and studied in Tokyo. After receiving a language degree and spending a number of years abroad, they now live in Washington and spend most of their free time writing in coffee shops, painting, crocheting plushies, coding, and playing lots of cozy video games. That is our author for tonight's book. Now, for longtime listeners of the reading stream, you know that Emily Thompson is somewhat of a regular as far as authors go for the reading stream, almost the backbone of this channel, to be quite honest. But we enjoy her stories. Well, apologies. We enjoy their stories. And as I mentioned before, this is my first time actually going through this book. I've gone through the first 5 books before years ago, and it has been a joy to go through the remaining books. Now, before we start the stream, of course, there is some news. In fact, I'm going to type this up now. There we go. So some of you may remember, the reading stream is moving to new channels. This channel, the Takanome channels, was originally for gaming. Now, the YouTube channel, no, YouTube channel as well. That's how all of this really started, was on YouTube. Apologies, had a burp there. But the Takanome channels, the Takanome channels, the Takanemo channels, they were not bad for the reading stream, but as far as the branding, the character, just the overall vibe, it did not really match the reading stream. The reading stream is something I very much enjoy doing as well, but it is different from gaming streams. So I wanted the channels to actually reflect the nature of that as opposed to being yet another gaming channel on the internet. Apologies, it feels as if there's something stuck in my throat. So, if you have not yet and you want to keep up with the reading stream, be sure to follow the new channels, which is twitch.tv/TakaReads or youtube.com/@TakaReads. And once again, I said this last Saturday. This Saturday is the final Saturday that I'll be streaming the reading stream from the Takanome channels. Next week, we will start with the new channels. So if you don't want to miss out, be sure to follow those new channels. And for those who did follow the new channels, I want to thank you for joining tonight because I am streaming on one of those new channels right now, in addition to the 2 normal channels, or currently normal channels. But again, Next week, we'll be back to two channels, and both channels will be Taco Reads. And if anyone is curious as to what's going to happen with the current YouTube and Twitch channels, the YouTube channel will be around for history's sake, if you will. The Twitch channel will continue in a much more limited capacity, but I will still do some gaming streams once in a while on the Takonome channel. Any other news? Well, I mentioned what's going to happen next Saturday. Looking forward in December, I believe I will be available for every weekend that month. So we should not have any stream cancellations unless something comes up. And once again, if you are listening and you think to yourself, boy, I would not mind having the Takonome read my story online, well, message me on Blue Sky at the Takonome, and we can start talking about how to get your story on this stream as well. Currently, I am in talks with one other person about reading their story on stream, so that may happen after we finish this book. In other news, for these channels or the reading stream, I have been debating on scheduling for the reading stream. We are going to keep the Saturday nights, but I have wondered if I should expand to one more night in the week to do the reading stream. I make no promises on whether or not that will happen because, well, even though the reading stream is about an hour and a half, there are things I would like to do that take time. For example, writing. I still need to, hmm, I still need to actually go through and edit book 2 of the Corrupted Gene series. For those who may not know, I have written the book before. The first one is called The Visitor, and the second one, The Foreigners, was supposed to come out this year, but things happened. And as you may know, I am not a professional writer. I am a professional amateur writer. So, unfortunately, my writing sometimes has to take a back burner because other things are happening. But I would like to get the second book out at some point. I just need to actually sit down and go through the painful edits. Speaking of books, and I promise we'll get to the reading soon, I feel as if I can go ahead and announce this as well. Since last year, I have been working on another book idea. And I think is at the point where I have enough material for that book. So it will be a collection of short stories that I've written over the past year or so. And the ideal is to, well, bundle them all together and see if people like them. Additionally, assuming that I can find the time and energy and workflow to do this, I would like to also put some of those stories on the YouTube channel, kind of make it more like a radio drama if I can. So those things are also potentially in the works. And finally, before I forget, the Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Taka Reads, is basically starting over from the current channel. So I believe we have a few followers for the new channel. However, I would be very appreciative if we can try to get the new channel to affiliate status. And largely, I want to get to affiliate status so we can have emotes. That's pretty much it. As always, I want to keep the reading stream ad-free as much as I can. I do not intend to make profit from the reading stream, but I would like to think of it more as something I can do that maybe could bring entertainment and value to everyone else on the internet. So, I've said it before as well, I do appreciate all the support that you give the reading stream, whether it is likes or follows, subscriptions. You tell friends and family and say, hey, I know this guy. He might put you to sleep, but his voice is to die for. So give him a listen. Again, I do appreciate all the support that these channels receive. Erudite is here making pizza at work. I just had pizza today, actually. I have leftovers, in fact, but the leftovers will be for another time. Hmm. Here we are. Had to drink a little water there. I do have my cup of tea ready to go, it seems. I believe we are as ready as we can be. So before we begin tonight's story, of course, we need to do the recap. And the recap goes as following. For most of his life, Twist has been alone. Orphaned as a baby, he would eventually repair clocks in a quiet, cozy shop in London. Thanks to his sight, his supernatural ability, he could repair just about anything simply by touching it to find what is broken. Unfortunately, this worked with people, thus making it virtually impossible for him to make physical contact with others. His life changed when a young woman requested his help to mend the mythical Clockwork Princess. Since then, he has discovered new worlds and made powerful friends and allies along the way. With his sky pirate friend Jonas and his wonderful clockwork fiancée Mira by his side, the world is a little easier to manage. It is not all fun and games, though. Dangerous and ancient forces wish to see his demise and will do anything to make it come true. Through the use of spells and wit, Twist and his friends have managed to avoid their grim fates. Until now. With a war between the Fae and the Sighted underway, Twist and his friends may finally have to confront their fates. No more running, no more hiding. Now, they are heading to a battlefield. How will they fare? Hopefully, that recap is accurate, because again, even I do not know what will happen next. Without much more ado, this is Clockwork Twist, Book 11, Faith, by Emily Thompson. We are currently on page 38. Wish me luck with the different voices and let's begin. Chatting with Nico along the walk back to the edge of the forest, Twist learned that he and Tasha had discovered their location thanks entirely to the Icarus. It seemed that the design was unique enough to make it fairly easy for any passing rooks to spot. Apparently, it had been a simple matter to find the Icarus, even this far from any towns. As Nico explained this, Twist silently began to wonder if they ought to do something to make the ship less recognizable. Nico was fascinated by the design of the Icarus as soon as Twist began to explain what he understood of the ship's workings. He followed closely as Twist relit the twin engines in the cube-like engine room hidden just below the main deck, and then went to the bridge in the bow to see to the controls and gauges. Nico asked a flurry of questions, some of which Twist was distressed to find he couldn't answer. I'm afraid I'm not really an engineer, he admitted, standing with Nico in the lower bridge. He kept one hand on a nearby gauge to keep an eye on the engines through his sight as they heated up. I can make the engines work and see if anything goes wrong, but I can't really tell you why it was built one way or not another. Nico nodded at this explanation, his keen eyes reading over the multitude of gauges and controls that filled the walls of the lower bridge. But basically speaking, he said, turning to Twist, the engines create a controlled explosion thrust to spin the turbines. Yes, basically, Twist agreed. So, theoretically, you could change the source of the thrust and the turbines would still spin and the ship would still fly. I suppose, Twist said, slightly confused why one might want to change the source of the thrust. After all, the engines were highly efficient and the fuel wasn't too expensive. So then, Nico went on, one might be able to substitute, say, a powerful electric motor to create thrust and therefore use no fuel at all except electricity. Twist gave a breath of a laugh. You and electricity, but it could work, couldn't it? Nico pressed, growing excited now. I suppose so, Twist said with a shrug. But then, my sight doesn't help me with electrical things. I'm not sure I'll be able to maintain the airship if it isn't mechanical. Nico gave a sigh and nodded. And of course, a battery with enough energy to power an airship would have to be gigantic and very heavy. Unless you could use a generator instead of a battery. Or you could get the airship flying first, say, with the engines it has, and then you might be able to use wind turbines to charge a smaller battery while in flight, creating a sort of hybrid system. No, that's just messy, he declared finally. Pure electricity power is the way to go. It's just the size and the weight of the battery that's the problem. Am I still a part of this conversation? Twist asked. Sorry, Nico muttered, grinning at himself. Got off track a bit there. Twist chuckled, knowing the young man's eccentricities were well excused by his raw intellect and brilliance. Jonas entered the upper bridge a moment later and called down to Twist about the status of the engines. Twist reported that they would probably be ready to fire in a few minutes' time, and that all else was well. You should come up and say goodbye to Mama, Jonas said, looking down to Twist through the black iron of the spiral stairs. She came on board to check on Pamuk's magical warding before we leave. Nico remained on the bridge, but Twist followed after Jonas, back to the long glass-covered deck of the airship to find Kima and Mira standing with Tasha. Although Pamut and Mama were missing from view, Twist was surprised to find that his uncle Harmon and his cousin Luca standing with his crew. You off to the sky again, Johnny? Luca asked Jonas with a knowing grin. Are you ever going to stay on the ground? Have you met me? Jonas asked back incredulous. Johnny is too much like Hall, Harmon said to Luca, patting him on the back. You take that back, Jonas snapped. Harmon laughed. You're both as ill-suited to solid ground as a jellyfish. Your uncle could never stand still either, Johnny. That does sound like you, Kima pointed out to Jonas. Twist and Mira nodded in agreement. Jonas crossed his arms and scowled to the side. Knowing how complex and generally uncomfortable a relationship Jonas had with his Uncle Howell, or with any of his blood relations for that matter, Twist could easily understand Jonas's ire. Did you manage to say goodbye to everyone, dear? Twist said. Twist asked Mira, hoping to change the subject. Where was I? There I am. Oh, yes, I did, Mira replied. She held a basket by its handle and lifted a cloth on top to reveal the contents to Twist. They were all so nice. They insisted we take these lovely supplies for the crossing to America. Oh, rabbits, Twist remarked, spying two small animals lying next to the fresh vegetables, nuts, and a multitude of other treats in the basket. Very nice, thank you, he offered to Harmon and Luca. They smiled in reply, but at that moment the door that led to the aft of the airship opened as Mama and Pamut walked out to join the others. Mama glanced about her with a clearly impressed expression. You did all of this yourself? She asked Pamut, turning to look at the boy. Pamut shrugged. You're a very powerful warlock for one so young, Mama remarked. Pumut's face washed over with surprise. But this is all simple spell work, he added, apparently nervous under her praise. This ship is as tight as a drum, Mama announced to the others. You're all as safe aboard as you are inside the boundary of my camp. Your dreams should be perfectly safe as well. Mama then turned back to Pumut. You should be proud of your skills, my boy. Human beings aren't usually so gifted as you are. I like to see how powerful you will be once you've reached your full potential. Pamut at first seemed confused by her comments, but confidence and calm slowly began to grow on his face. Watching this, Twist could easily guess that the boy's old Fey masters had not been generous with compliments. It must seem very foreign indeed to be praised for his magic. Kima, standing beside Pamut, looked at her son with obvious pride. He's a fair cook as well, she mentioned. Pumut jerked in surprise, looking to her as if shocked to hear her say so. And getting harder to beat at chess as well, Jonas added. A wide smile spread across Pumut's face as he seemed to figure out how to feel about these compliments. Well, I'm very glad you're here to protect my grandsons, Mama said warmly to Pumut. Thank you for all of your help. While Pamut bashfully accepted her thanks, Twist marveled at how completely Mama had claimed both him and Jonas as her own family. Twist might share her bloodline, but he hardly knew her, while Jonas was biologically a stranger, but had been raised in her family nonetheless. When she turned to Twist and Jonas, Twist saw an echo of the confused emotions he'd seen on his mother's face earlier. You two be careful, she said sternly. I want you each back in one piece, understand? Yes, Mama, Jonas droned, sounding bored. Mama gave him a stern look at his tone, but she looked pleased nonetheless. Thank you for taking care of my parents, Twist offered. Thank you for bringing my daughter back to me, Mama replied. I know you don't feel much like a part of my family, but you have as much of a place in my home as I do. Please come back whenever you can. Twist nodded, unsure how else to respond to such a welcoming sentiment. Mama then said her last goodbyes to them all and climbed back down the rope ladder. Jonas accepted a hearty embrace from Luca and a handshake from Harmon, but thankfully neither of them offered any more than kind words to Twist. Tasha offered polite parting words as well, receiving them back before the gypsies climbed down the rope ladder and vanished into the forest below. Finally alone on his airship, with no one but his crew and friends aboard, Twist felt his spirit fall into ease. Kima went to the Kima went to the balloon controls under the deck. Pamut saw to untying the mooring rope and rolling up the ladder, and Mira and Tasha went to the kitchen to put away the basket of supplies that the gypsies had given them, while Twist and Jonas headed to the bridge to fire up the engines and begin their journey to America. When they met him on the bridge, Nico asked to see the engine room again, his eyes alight with fascination. Jonas shrugged, saying that Nico could do whatever he liked, and the young inventor hurried away. Twist returned to the engine controls on the lower level of the bridge and patted the throttle level, his sight whispering gently over the engines. Twist imagined that soon some parts of the engines would need cleaning after all their recent use and another long journey across the world, but for the moment, all was well and the fuel reserves were enough to carry them at least as far as America. In a few minutes' time, Kima announced through the speaking tubes that the balloon was at the right pressure for sustained high-atmosphere flight. A glance at the altimeter to Twist's left confirmed that they'd already risen somewhat into the sky. When Jonas asked, Twist told him that the engines were warm enough, and Jonas replied with an order to depart. Twist slowly opened the fuel line and brought the airship into motion. He smiled, feeling the movement build at a smooth and steady rate instead of a violent lurching of the past. Little by little, he let the impatient engines run faster and faster, rising up to full speed. Excitement rippled through the machine, thirsty as she was for the thrill of screaming through the open sky. Twist patted gently at the control, pleased that his ship was happy to be moving again. He felt Jonas steer the ship toward the west, and, Twist's imagination filled with his own memories of America. He marveled silently at the fact that although his journeys across the world had taken him to many places, he so far only seen a few points in such a large country. By the way, Jonas said when Twist joined him on the upper level of the bridge, how's our fuel? We have what we need to reach New York, Twist answered, gazing out the curved wall of windows at the front of the ship at the vast horizon ahead. Rolling green land broken by towns and rocky bluffs sped by, bringing the Atlantic Ocean in its wake. We might have enough to make it across the country to Kima's village, but then we'll be running dry. New York it is, Jonas decided. Prices are lower in the Caribbean, but going through New York is more direct from here. Jonas paused, frowning. Hold on a moment. You knew that, didn't you? He asked Twist with narrowed eyes. We're in France, Twist answered with a shrug. The Caribbean is hours to the south, but New York is practically due west from here. And when we first found Kima's village, it was right between San Francisco and New York. I assumed that was the fastest route. Jonas looked at him proudly. Listen to the world traveler over here. When we first met, you didn't even know which countries were between England and Turkey. Now you know the Atlantic like the back of your hand. Twist smirked while sheepishly shaking his head. Hardly. Even as he tried to deflect his friend's praise, Twist silently began to realize that Jonas wasn't actually exaggerating. Now that he thought of it, Twist was easily able to imagine how far Rio de Janeiro was from Nassau in the Caribbean, or even the outer areas of Canada that he once seen. Tracing his mental map around to Iceland and then to England, France, and Spain below, Twist was able to place the northwestern expanse of Africa and find Sierra Leone nestled in next to Ghana. He could even fill in the vast deserts of Algeria, heading back to Europe, and the tiny jewel that was Tamaracet with its vibrant underground city of men dyed blue. Good heavens, Twist muttered, startled to find that the Middle East and Asia were no strangers to him either. I'm actually learning my way around the world. I even know where Constantinople is. Jonas chuckled, reaching out to drape an arm around Twist's shoulders. The cool, calm white fog that flooded into Twist's sight at the touch was colored with brilliant pride. It's fun not being a townie anymore, isn't it? Jonas said, his eyes a sweet blue. Twist nodded. I dare say it rather is. Here we're going to take a chapter break. I would like to welcome Wayward Bard and Black Rose to the reading stream. Welcome, everyone. Hope that you're having a good day today. Ooh, apologies, I had to stretch a little bit there. Again, I do want to thank you all for joining this reading stream, whether you're here live on the YouTube channel or Twitch channel. And a reminder, just in case you did not catch the beginning, if you like the reading stream and you have not followed the new channels yet, be sure to follow the new channels. Again, I will type it here just in case it is not in chat. There we are. So if you have not followed the new channels yet, which is twitch.tv/TakaReads or youtube.com/TakaReads, be sure to follow those channels because starting next week, the reading stream will only be on those two channels. For those who are watching on YouTube, if you go to my current YouTube profile channel, you will also see a link to the new channel in the description. I'm going to take a sip of tea as well. set this back down. Ooh. Oh no, my subscription milestone. I'm sorry, Erudite. Because as far as I know, you've been subscribed to this channel, the Takanome channel, since the reading stream began, which is almost 4 years. You know, just really quick. If you are able to, whether it's finger snaps or something in chat or whatnot, I want to give a special shout out to Erudite here. Not only are they the author of the series that we're reading right now, but they have been a long-time supporter of the reading stream. One could honestly say that the reading stream may not exist without Erudite's work. So, Erudite, thank you very much. I am sorry about your milestones, though. But if you want, feel free to switch your subscription from the Takanome channel over to the Taka Reach channel. Oh, wait, no, can't do that yet because it's not affiliate. Once again, if we can get the Taka Reach channel on Twitch to affiliate, that would be great, because then if you want to do subscriptions for the channel, you can. But more importantly, we can have emotes. I will have to actually create new emotes now that I thought about it. Have to think what type of emotes we want here. It will be book related. Book and writing related. Absolutely. Let's see, Rudite World, you are the only Twitch streamer I watch. It's been such fun, and it's a nice way to keep in touch. That is true. It is true. We're Erudite and I, for those who may not know, we, before the reading stream, before I started streaming on Twitch, even before my time as a teacher in Japan, Erudite and I had the same class, Japanese class, when we were studying there as students. So that means, Erudite, I think I've met you about, doing math here, 18? I want to say 18 years ago. Just about. So it is nice to be able to keep in touch as well. And with that, I believe we are ready for the next chapter. Should probably start before I go down memory lane again. So with that, let's begin. Well, I must say that this is a marvelous ship, Tasha mentioned when Twist and Jonas emerged from the bridge. She and Nico now stood with Mira and Pamut in the middle of the Icarus's glass-covered deck, apparently at the end of a tour. Mira smiled proudly at the comment, glancing about at her airship admiringly. Up here above the scattered clouds, in the clear early morning air, the brilliant sunlight gleamed off the silver glass and pale wood, giving the airship a dreamlike quality. The pleasant scents of Mira's collection of flowering plants, displayed under the sunlight to one side of the deck, gave the atmosphere of freshness, and the warm belly of the balloon below their feet kept the cold of the sky away. Thank you, Twist said to Tasha. We rather like it. Has anyone seen Kima? Jonas asked. I haven't seen her, Mira said, shaking her head. "Hmm, she left the engine room as soon as we were in flight," Nico offered as a shrug. Hmm, she's probably in her cabin, Jonas said absently, heading off for the crew cabins off to the airship. Pamut watched him leave with troubled eyes, but voiced none of his thoughts. Tasha turned to Twist the moment Jonas was out of earshot. Well, those two have certainly grown close, haven't they? She asked in a hushed voice, a knowing smile on her lips. Pamut looked up to her sharply, interest clear on his face. Jonas and Kima? Twist asked in reply. They've always been friends. Tasha gave a tiny laugh of surprise and covered it with a gloved hand. That's not all I see. What do you mean? Pamut asked. You seem to have grown rather fond of Jonas as well, haven't you? She asked him with a leading tone. Pamut frowned, clearly not following her meaning. While Twist also struggled to imagine what she meant, Mira's face washed over with eager intrigue. Hmm, you've been wrong before, Nico pointed out. No one's perfect, dear, Tasha replied smugly. Nico grinned and shook his head, clearly seeing some joke that Twist had missed. Anyway, Tasha said primly, once again as composed and genteel as ever. Have you all how have you all been since on How have you all been getting on since we parted in Atlantis? No, 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 Mira said sternly, pointing a finger at Tasha. You were talking about Jonas and Kima acting strange. I mean, certainly, Jonas is always strange, she added swiftly, calling an affronted glance from Twist for her friend's sake. But what do you see with your sight that we don't? Mira asked Tasha with the gleeful greed. I'm sure that, if I'm right, Tasha began, glancing at Nico. You will all see what I see, and very soon indeed. Why spoil the surprise? Nico gave a noisy sigh. I'm afraid there is no way to get Tasha anywhere near a straight answer when she's in this mood. Tasha gave a tiny, affronted gasp, looking to him with all the innocence she could muster. So, Nico said to Twist conversationally, we fought the fire that nearly consumed Atlantis right after you left. What did you get up to after we parted? Tasha narrowed her dark eyes at her young companion, deciding to follow Nico's silent advice. Twist replied in a light and amiable tone, recounting the first of many extraordinary things that had happened since he and his crew had left Atlantis. Unable to resist the chance to recount their adventures, Mira joined in and eventually took over. Twist was happy to listen while Tasha and Nico gasped at daring moments of the tale and asked questions after their own fascinations. Pamut listened, appearing just as enthralled as if he'd not been involved in the entire story himself. Even though he'd been present for the events as well, Twist found himself just as enchanted by Mira's spirited retelling of their buying the Icarus in the Caribbean, reuniting with Adair Quay, and being hunted by and later vanquishing the wicked satyr Storm. That's what those marks on her arm were? Tasha asked with fascination. Why, I've never met anyone who survived a lightning strike. I have a new life goal, Nico announced. Tasha laughed at this, amazed by his implication. Well, if she can survive it, so can anyone, Nico went on, grinning. But that was magical lightning, Twist pointed out fearfully. Electricity and I are old friends, Nico said with a wave of his hand. I'm not afraid of it. Twist shook his head, giving up the struggle to talk any sense into him. Oh, but then, after all that, we met Twist's father, Miguel, Mira said with renewed passion, as a remarkably poor hidden attempt at a diversion. He built a machine to save Twist's mother, Naomi, from death. What kind of machine? Nico asked, his attention fully locked on Mira again. But, Tasha said before Mira could answer, isn't Miguel a Spanish name? Twist, I thought you were British. So did I, Twist grumbled with a sigh. I also thought I was an orphan. Imagine my surprise. Yeah, but you mentioned a death reversing machine, Nico said to Mira urgently. Well, it was actually a time machine, Mira replied. Have you got any popcorn or anything? Nico asked. I'm getting hungry, but I simply got to hear all about this. Oh, Mira gasped, looking to Twist. Darling, are you hungry too? What time is it now? Should I start making lunch? It's nearly 11 o'clock, Twist answered, after checking his pocket watch. I suppose I could eat, We didn't have breakfast, did we? Come along, Mira said, taking Tasha's hand and waving invitingly to Nico. I'll tell you all about Miguel and Naomi and the time machine while I cook. Tasha, Nico, and Pamut all followed along, Nico already asking her to explain the time machine. Twist gave a sigh, letting them get ahead of him. When he followed them into the rear of the airship and down the stairs toward the kitchen, Twist paused on the lower level. He heard both Jonas's and Kima's voice coming softly from the open door to the cabin that Kima and Pamut shared. Since Mira was now trying to explain time travel and the nature of physical universe, while Nico asked technical questions with great interest and enthusiasm, Twist decided to check on his other friends. Twist peered around the door frame and found Jonas sitting on one of the two small beds in the room, while Kima sat in the chair at a dressing table, her legs crossed to one side and her arms up around the chair back to talk to him. Though their words fell to silence before apologies. Though their words fell to silence before he reached them, Twist was struck by the pleasantness of the atmosphere in the room. Kima seemed far more relaxed and comfortable than she had the last time Twist had seen her, and Jonas appeared at ease as well. Twist paused, once again amazed by how skillfully Jonas managed to soothe Kima's mood. Are you going to stand out there all day? Jonas asked, glancing to Twist. Kima looked to Twist sharply, as if startled to find him in her doorway. Sorry, Twist muttered swiftly, embarrassment flashing hot through his blood. I was just. Twist paused, having no idea how to finish his sentence. Twist, stop feeling awkward, Jonas said, reaching up to rub at the back of his own neck. It itches. Twist frowned at him unhappily for pointing out his feelings so bluntly. How are Tasha and Nico getting along? Jonas asked. Has anyone told Nico that your father built a time machine yet? Oh, yes, Twist answered, happy for a topic he could easily comment on. Mira's just cooking lunch and telling them both about all we've been up to recently, time travel included. I've never seen Nico so enthralled. Ah, so that's why you're lurking in the doorways, Jonas said knowingly. Running away from confusing science talk, eh? I would too. Kimo chuckled lightly, getting to her feet. Well, you two hide all you like. I think I'll go help Mira with skinning those rabbits. I know she doesn't like to do it. Twist stepped aside to let her pass, but a nagging tightness in the buzzing at his neck brought his attention to Jonas. Jonas looked as if he was struggling to come up with something to say to Kima, but she was gone before a sound passed his lips. He gave a heavy sigh, giving up, and the tension in Twist's neck melted into dark and chilly unease. Bewildered by this, Twist moved closer. Are you quite all right? Twist asked. Jonas looked up at him as if confused by the question, but then shook his head. Of course I'm all right. Twist frowned, feeling the exact opposite in the buzzing at his neck and seeing a troubled gray color in his friend's eyes. I'm just in a tricky spot right now, Jonas conceded. I'll work it out. Please, don't make anything out of it. Twist shrugged, mentally shoving his concern away. As you wish. Would you like me to leave you to yourself? Jonas shook his head as he stood up. No need for that. Come on, let's go see if Mira managed to explain time travel to Nico yet. Twist followed him toward the kitchen, trying very hard not to worry about the low-level unease and the buzzing at his neck. Whatever was bothering Jonas, it seemed he felt that even science was less of a strain than speaking about it. Here we're going to take a break. Robsy, if you are still here, hello, welcome to the stream. Hope that you're having a good day today, or, well, in your case, hope that you're having a good night. Hello. Going to take a moment to drink this tea. No, before I do so, Robsy or Black Rose or even Erudite, anyone in chat if you're able to. I am curious, are you listening to the reading stream on the current channel or correction? Are you listening to the reading stream on the old channel or the new fresh channel? Old. Okay. I did a test on a little earlier just to see if both channels would stream at the same time. Oh, Ace is here. Hello, Ace. He was very quiet in the background, but Ace wrote both. He is dual watching? Hmm. I don't know what you call dual wielding when you're watching two streams at the same time. Old still got a few days of no ads this month. Got it. And apparently Ace enjoys stalking me, according to Robsy. Well, once again, because I feel that I have to say this throughout the entire stream, if you have not followed the new channels yet, ooh, apologies, that was a little bit of pizza coming up, but if you have not followed the new channels yet and you do want to keep up with the reading stream, whether that is Twitch or YouTube, be sure to follow the channels that is posted into the chat. Again, the channels are twitch.tv/Taka Reads or youtube.com/@Taka Reads. Starting at Saturday, we will be using only the newer channels, and the older channels will go back to their original purpose. Ace wrote by stalking Robsy means supporting. I do appreciate all of the support that these channels receive, even if stalking is part of it. Robsy wrote, please play Phasma with us. There's such an amazing new map. I don't think Robsy remembers that I am not very good with Phasmophobia at all. I do not know why the game did not click very well with me. But who knows? Maybe I'll try again. It's really a matter of time and energy. Mm. Now, we all know that I'm drinking tea, and we all know what's going to happen next. But we have a script to follow, so we're going to do that. Tonight's tea is the Clockmaker. Surprise. It is basically the staple of the reading stream when we read the Clockwork Twist series. This tea, the Clockmaker, is comprised of roasted green tea, regular green tea, orange peel, black tea, pure tea, and rose petal, and pine smoke. And now, we all know what question you're thinking. Taka, 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 taka. Where on this green and blue and possibly brown earth can I find such amazing sounding tea that you drink every Saturday? Well, dear listeners, viewers, if you will, allow me the opportunity to tell you about a place, a special place, a wonderful place, a place that will tickle your senses. The place is Friday Afternoon, the tea shop in Seattle, Washington. Again, it is time for a not sponsored. I promise it's not a sponsorship, even though it seems like a sponsorship because I keep talking about them, but they're not a sponsor of me at all. Sponsorship, not a sponsorship. Friday Afternoon. If you go to the website, www.fridaytea.com, I can't believe I almost forgot the website, you will find a wide variety of teas that I'm sure will tickle your fancy. Again, that is fridaytea.com. Tonight, I want to tell you about the tea in the bathhouse. Now, this tea is available until December 3rd, so if this tea sounds delicious to you, be sure to order it ASAP because it will be out of rotation within 2 weeks, or less actually. Less. It'll be out of rotation in less than 2 weeks. Looks like 10 days. Anyhow, the description of this tea goes as follows. Sweet and sturdy, this luxurious herbal blend is truly a remedy to help restore your courage and heart. A touch of honey brings it all together to help you feel shiny and new. The ultimate sweet self-care tea. Ingredients: rooibos, honey granules, cane sugar and honey basically, lemon peel, strawberry, lime peel, and blue corn flour. In this tea, believe it or not, is actually inspired by the Fairyland series by Catherine Valent. And you could check out the entire collection on, well, it's the entire collection for the teas inspired by this author. But again, if you go to www.fridaytea.com and you look for In the Bathhouse, there is a link that will take you to the teas that are inspired by the Fairyland series. Let's see, I do not see any reviews here, but that does not mean the tea is not delicious. So, if the ingredients of rooibos, honey granules, lemon peel, strawberry, lime peel, and blue corn flour sound delicious and tempting to you, give it a try. And again, they do not pay me to do this. No one pays me or bribes me or say, hey, Taka, you know it'll be great. It'll be great if you talk about Friday afternoon during your streams. Just have a whole dedicated, unhinged section to it. No, they don't say that. I just enjoy their teas. And so I hope that you enjoy it too. Again, their website, www.fridaytea.com. Again, www.fridayliketheday and tea like the drink.com. And actually, speaking of Friday afternoon, I need to put in a new order because we're almost out of Clockmaker tea. Let's see. Am I forgetting anything? Mm. In Erudite, I am tickled that you tried the Fairy Queen tea. For those who may not know, I got a message not too long ago from Erudite telling me that they tried the Fairy Queen tea and that I was absolutely correct. That tea is criminally delicious. I'm paraphrasing here, but the sentiment is the tea is criminally delicious. Who knows, maybe next Saturday, celebrating reading on the new channels, and only the new channels, we'll do a cup of the Fairy Queen. I do still have some left. Mm. Before we continue, I want to take the time to thank you all for joining this reading stream, whether you're here live or you're listening to the VOD. I appreciate all the support that these channels receive, whether it is likes or follows, subscriptions that may have to move to the other channel, subscriptions or stalking, if you will, so lurks. If you go around telling friends and family and say, hey, there's this guy on the internet, he reads, he read good, and they say, wow, he read good? That'd be nice. I would like to listen to someone who read good. I appreciate all the support that this channel receives. And for anyone out there who writes stories, if you're listening to the stream or if you know someone who writes stories, and you think, I think Taco will have fun reading the story, or maybe I would just like to hear him read it out loud to strangers on the internet. Be sure to message me on Blue Sky or any of my channels, to be quite honest, and let me know, and we could start working something out. Again, I have considered potentially adding an extra day for the reading stream, so instead of 1 day a week, it may end up being 2 days a week. I am not making promises on that at the moment. I need to find out, well, what the rest of my life looks like. But If we do add an extra day to the reading stream schedule, I will be sure to let you all know. I would recommend King stream then. He read good. Oh, I did not realize King read good. Do a little bit of stretch. Something I would like. And I've looked for this before and a good I did not find a good solution for this. Because I stand up to read, of course, I have to read the book or hold the book up so I can actually see it. That way, I'm not looking down like this, talking to who knows what. I mean, it probably sounds okay, but I rather speak with my head up, my chin up, so it doesn't close up the throat too much, anything like that. Better airflow, if you will. But one thing I would like, if I could ever find this, is something like a book stand holder. Something that I could place the book on, it'll keep it open for me, and it'll give my poor fingers holding the book open as best it can a chance to relax and not feel so pained towards the end of the reading stream. I looked for something to that nature before, did not find something that seemed satisfactory. It's a wishful thought, but it's a thought nonetheless. All right. With that, we're going to go back into our story. We're now on page 52. Let's go back. Mira's roasted rabbits and vegetables turned out to be a lovely lunch indeed, along with a box full of nut cakes that the gypsies had given them in parting. Everyone sat together around the dining table in the kitchen, chatting brightly as they ate, while compliments on Mira's cooking peppered the air. Tasha had made sure she got the seat right beside Mira, leaving Twist to her other side. No, but truly, Tasha protested as Mira bashfully waved her compliments away. Certainly, anyone can throw things in the pot, but it's not easy feat to cook with such skill. It's amazing to me that you've learned so much in so little time. Pommet, you're very lucky to have such a good teacher as Mira. With her leading you, you'll be a chef in your own right as well. Pommet looked at Tasha as if he wasn't sure what a chef was. Oh, your insufferable exaggerations, Mira said, through a delighted giggle, covering her copper face with a hand as if afraid her metal skin might be blushing. Tasha smiled back, clearly pleased by this reaction. Well, she's doing it for Twist now, isn't she? Jonas said to Tasha, helping himself to another chunk of juicy, flavorful rabbit. We're just lucky she's cooking more than he can eat. Twist nearly spoke up to defend himself, but then paused when he realized he wasn't entirely sure what to take offense at. Surely there was something in what Jonas had just said that he should, indeed, take offense at. Twist confused, grumbling, thoughts melted away to silence when he caught sight of Mira. Sitting on Twist's right, Mira was quiet but looking at Jonas with as much warmth in her eyes as a noonday sun over Hawaii. See, Nico mentioned with a grin, Mira's secret ingredient is always love. Oh, stop it, Mira said, swatting toward him across the table with another giggle. Feeling somehow quite conspicuous, Twist decided to stay out of this conversation until it changed direction. Luckily for him, it soon began to follow after Tasha's and Nico's adventures. It turned out that, just as Pamut had guessed, it was indeed the Fae who had set fire to Atlantis. Thankfully, the Rooks had managed to put out the flames before losing much of the ancient city, or even a single life, thanks in part to Tasha's and Nico's presence at the time. With her sight for details, Tasha has spotted the best placements for fire breaks and noticed potential failures in containment. Nico had thrown together a crude but powerful pump to get the water from the city's entrance pool to the heart of the fires in time to make a real difference. Once the fire was out and the city was safe once again, Aiden had ordered his rooks to get to the root of the cause. Finding that it had been a magical fire after all, Aiden set his best minds to the task of gathering as much knowledge on the Fae as possible. Tasha naturally became indispensable to him. He sent her and Nico across the world into the oldest libraries and the smallest out of the way villages in search of stories that contained the vital information. Clearly, in response to the Rook's interest in them, the Fae turned their attention to the Rooks as well. Many Rook agents were suddenly attacked by satyr assassins and hordes of mercenary trolls and goblins. Aiden replied in kind and sought out every means to combat the attackers. When news of the ciphers helping the Fae arose, Aiden proclaimed that thwarting Loki would be their first true victory against the Fae. Twist could only imagine how devastating their defeat, and the loss of their leader behind the magical barrier around Kima's village, all in the middle of such a war, had therefore been to the Rooks. Twist and his companions voiced their sympathies for Tasha and Nico's own distress, but it was clearly hard for Jonas, especially, to mourn the troubles of the Rooks. Kima also remained quiet as she listened to the others. She only asked questions when her village was mentioned, inquiring mostly on the current state of her people. Tasha apologetically explained that little was still known of what was happening beyond the warding that surrounded the village. Even her powerful sight couldn't detect anything at all inside. When Tasha went on, saying that she hadn't even been present when Aiden led the attack on the village, Kima gave a sigh, a soft sound that wasn't meant to call any attention. If the buzzing in Twist's neck hadn't shaded over the worry, and Jonas hadn't looked to her silently for a little too long, Twist might not have noticed anything at all. When he also looked to Kima, he found her face a mask of dread, as she stared at her half-finished meal. Tasha's words fell away after a moment, her sight for detail clearly showing her something amiss as well. "Penny for your thoughts, love," Jonas said gently in Kima's direction. She failed to respond, as everyone else at the table now noticed her. "Kima?" Jonas prompted. "Hmm?" she toned, looking up as if startled from her thoughts. "Everything all right?" Jonas asked. "Yes, of course," she said, snatching up her cup of tea and making a rather long draw from it. Jonas smiled gently. "There's nothing wrong with being concerned about your village. Hell, I'm concerned about them too." Nico glanced at Jonas, as if surprised by this, while Tasha's expression betrayed nothing but the faintest smirk. "Really?" Kima asked Jonas, frowning slightly. "Why would you care? My village has nothing to do with you." "Well, it's your village, isn't it?" Jonas replied, half grumbling. "You're my friend. Why can't I care about your people just because of that?" "I guess," Kima said on a sigh. Twist stared at her apathy and confusion. Did she not believe Jonas's words? Did she not understand them? Something had clearly been lost between what he said and what she heard. If he were in her place, Twist imagined that what Jonas had said could only have been a comfort, however slight. A sudden buzzing sound rang out from Mira's direction. She responded to this with a happy tone and took her necklace watch in her hand while it buzzed again. She opened the front cover and then flicked the hidden switch, revealing the bright blue glow and soft rain sound within as the watch face flipped over. "Sky, is that you?" Mira asked her watch happily. "Hi, honey," Sky's voice replied, sounding distant and slightly tinny. "I need to ask you something. Have you got a second?" "Yes, we're just having lunch," Mira answered. "How can I help you?" "Is Kima still traveling with you guys?" Sky's voice asked. Mira looked up at Kima across the table. "Yes, she's right here. Why do you ask?" "Well," Sky's voice began. You know that war we've been having with the Fae? The Cyphers have joined in, against us, and they've turned Kima's village into a fortress. She might be the only one who could still get inside. Well, aren't you popular? Jonas said to Kima. Kima shook her head in disbelief. Yes, I know, Mira said gently to her watch. We're heading there right now. You are? Sky's voice asked in surprise. Mira? Tasha asked, calling her attention before responding to Sky. I assume that's your friend you told me about? The Rook agent? Mira nodded. May I speak to her, please? Who is that mumbling? Sky's voice asked out of the watch. Mira slipped the chain off her necklace over her head. Apologies. Mira slipped the chain of her necklace over her head as she answered. This is my friend Tasha, she explained to the watch. Here, she'd like to talk to you, she added, handing the watch to Tasha. Oh, that magician with the awesome wardrobe that you told me about? Sky's voice replied brightly. Thank you, dear, Tasha said sweetly to Mira, taking the watch. Yes, hello, Agent Blue, she answered Sky through the watch, holding it closer to her painted lips. I realize that you and I don't know each other, but I feel like I already know you well from what Mira's told me. Mira looked bashfully to the side. Sky's voice chuckled. I've heard a lot about you too, and just call me Sky, alright? Anybody Mira likes is in good in my books. Sky it is then, Tasha went on with a polite tone. I'm glad you feel as I do, and I hope that we can come to an understanding. Are you alone right now? There was a pause. Yes, I am, Sky's voice answered. Twist found himself leaning forward, watching Tasha pass Mira with fascination. The others were all watching her as well, suspecting by her tone that something intriguing was about to happen. The last time the Rooks tried to infiltrate the village, Tasha said, Aiden led the attack himself and brought his best troops. Whatever force is inside the village, our very best was not enough to thwart it. But the rest of the Rooks are panicked. As far as I can tell, none of them know about Kima. She's not a high interest target after all. Very few even really know where she's from or where she is now. But if they do that she is still outside the village, they will surely try to use her to mount another large-scale attack. But I fear that this would also fail. We must try something different to save Aiden and everyone inside the village. There was another long pause while Twist and everyone around him looked at Tasha in amazement. She never mentioned that she was keeping Kima a secret from the Rooks. You talk a lot of sense, lady, Sky's voice replied finally. If Aiden and his best weren't enough, no one else has a chance. We just lose more people if we attacked again with Kima. We may still have a way, Tasha said. A very small team of highly skilled specialists might just be able to slip inside undetected and do something of value. Specialists like, say, a man who could break any lock, another who could see the future, an unstoppable ghost girl, and maybe even a lady who come up with a plan like that. Tasha glanced up at Twist, Jonas, and Mira. Something like that. Not to mention, those three are just damn lucky, Sky's voice added. I see your point. It's still scary as hell to use our last way inside at all, but if I had to bet on anyone, I'd bet on Mira, Twist, and Jonas. Twist and Jonas shared a worried glance, but Mira only looked proud. Kima, giving no comment at all, helped herself to another cup of tea. So would I, Tasha agreed, looking at each of them warmly. Then, will you help me, Sky? If you don't mention Kima to any of the Rooks, they may continue to forget all about her. At the very least, it will give us the time to make our strike. A sigh came through the watch. Mira, what do you think, honey? I think Tasha is very clever, Mira answered, smiling at Tasha as she leaned closer to speak to the watch. She's also very loyal to us all. I trust her judgment. She will never lead us astray. Tasha appeared deeply touched by Mira's words, and Twist found he had no objection of his own. Glancing to Jonas, Twist imagined he saw the same faith in him as well. Kima appeared thoughtful, but still said nothing. Well, that's good enough for me, Sky's voice said. All right, Tasha, I agree with you. And if Mira trusts you, then I do too. I'll keep this quiet. But just know that if this all goes wrong, I have a pet tiger who loves Twist very much and is very protective. Twist shook his head as it filled with memory of Callie's often frightening affection. So I've heard, Tasha said. I'll keep that in mind. Well, good luck, guys, Sky's voice offered. And be smart. Mira, call me when it's over, all right? Ashley, call me if I can do anything else to help. Just call me. Sky finished with a laugh at herself. I will, Mira promised. Mira took her watch back once Tasha offered Sky a goodbye and then said goodbye herself. She closed her watch and put it back around her neck. So, you didn't think we needed to know that you're keeping this whole mission a secret from the magpies? Jonas asked Tasha. Tasha looked back to him innocently. I thought it was obvious. Nico snickered to himself. Obvious? Jonas echoed. How? You never mentioned it at all. I came to you alone, Tasha said. We're traveling aboard your personal airship instead of taking a Rook one, and I've not mentioned meeting up with the other forces. Oh, Jonas said. I guess it was kind of obvious. Don't feel bad, Jonas, Nico said to him with a smirk. She sees the world so clearly that sometimes she forgets it's not so easy for the rest of us. Tasha looked at him sheepishly, but Jonas shrugged, clearly seeing no malice in their old friend. Here we're going to take a break. Black Rose asked Robsy, are you here? Are you friendly? Well, I don't know if Robsy is still awake or not because it is... I cannot do math and we just had daylight savings here. So 3 o'clock in the morning maybe for where she is. No, she's there. Well, I was going to say I can vouch for Robsy that Robsy actually is a friendly person. How long have we known Robsy? I would say about 2 years now, actually. About 2 years? Right. I believe it was 2 years because that's when I was still in Georgia and Robsy came on during a stream of Doki Doki Literature Club. But I can say that Robsy is a friendly person. I mean, honestly, everyone in chat so far, I can say they are friendly, including Ace. Ace will deny it for certain. But Ace Lincoln is also a friendly person. He's also a menace. He's like cats, if you will. You know, I'm using my cats for example, but I believe this may be true for all cats. They are wonderful, lovely people, but they're also a menace. Just called cats people. But Ace falls under that category, more like a cat, where you can absolutely have a lovely, fun conversation with him. It's a joy to play games with him, but he's a menace. And he's our lovely menace. Robsy wrote Ace, friendly? And Ace responded, do not spread lies and slander my name. It is too late, Ace. And once again, I do want to thank everyone for joining this reading stream, whether you're here live or you're listening to the VOD. I hope that you're enjoying the story as well as the reading of the story. I'm happy that I still have my Sky voice. My Tasha voice has been jumping around a bit, I know it has. Nico feels a bit solid now. I think I have his voice back. Tasha's voice has been a little difficult to pull back. I know I tried to basically give it Kima's voice, but Eastern European. And because I'm not very good at accents, I'm not sure how successful I am with that. But fortunately, we don't have any of the French characters in the story, so less likely to confuse them. Mm. Of course, Twist's voice is pretty easy to remember. He's the only one with a quote unquote British accent. Jonas, easy to do because, well, he's basically my voice. I see we got a bot here. Just gonna remove that. Oh, that's right, because I have a new channel, so the bots come and say, hey, do you want big streams or something like that, or big follows? I think that's what it is. Let's see. Other voices. And of course, Mira. Mira is always the hardest voice. From Robsy, I'm deactivating my Facebook for now, which, understandable. I had, I believe if I didn't deactivate it, I stayed off of Facebook for about 5 years before kind of reintroducing it back to my life. And even now, it is, mm, apologies. I do not spend a lot of time on Facebook these days either. Looking at the time, I believe we have enough time for one more chapter. Oh, we do have enough time for one more chapter. So we're going to do one more chapter and then we will call it an evening. And again, if you are a writer, or if you happen to know someone who writes stories and you think, it'll be nice to hear their story on the reading stream, or be nice to hear my story. And by my, I mean you, not necessarily me. Then feel free to send me a message either on my Blue Sky account at the Takanome, or you can send me a message on my Twitch and YouTube channels. And with that, let's go into the final chapter for the evening. By the time afternoon began to deepen the color of the heavens, the Icarus was surrounded on all sides by ocean and empty sky. With nothing to do but wait for America to appear on the horizon, the crew turns to their own devices. Tasha was eventually persuaded to put on a magic show, which deeply confused Pamut. Every trick she performed amazed him not because it seemed like magic, but because he could easily tell it wasn't real magic and couldn't figure out how she did it. Twist enjoyed the boys' reactions nearly as much as the show itself, and noticed that the others did as well. When night finally fell, and yet there was still no land in sight, Twist began to wonder how long this trip across the ocean was really going to take. It seemed to him that the day was dragging on far longer than it should be. We're traveling west and chasing the sun, Jonas explained. Considering how early we left France this morning, we should make it to New York by midnight local time, but by French time, it'll be 5 in the morning. No wonder this day is taking forever to bloody pass, Twist grumbled. Jonas chuckled and nodded. It's always more fun to travel east. You don't have to go any faster, but it seems like time really flies. Speaking about time zones didn't seem to help, and fatigue fell heavy on Twist. Since they still had hours ahead of them to travel, Jonas suggested Twist retire to bed early so that he might wake refreshed by the time they reached New York. Twist couldn't think of a single good reason against this and took to the plan gladly. After all, he'd been traveling. Hmm. After all, he'd been having trouble sleeping for the last few days, and those disrupted nights were starting to add up. But what about dinner? Mira gasped when Twist told her of this plan. He found her on the deck, tending to her garden. I'm not very hungry, Twist confessed. Perhaps I could have dinner after I wake up. But that's not dinner, Mira whined. If you eat after you wake up, that has to be breakfast. And that means you'll have to miss dinner. Twist looked at her in a moment of quiet contemplation. Then he reached out and took the watering can from her hand and placed it on the shelf beside a plant so that he could take her hands and look at her earnestly. Surprised by this, Mira watched him curiously while her emotions murmured quietly in his sight. Darling, I'm ever so pleased by how diligently you take care of me, he said gently. But I'm also very tired. Can't you let me skip dinner, just this once, if it means getting a rest? Mira's emotions warmed in his hands, but her expression turned knowing. You know that if I don't make you. You know that if I don't make sure you eat properly, you won't do it at all. Yes, dear, Twist answered with a sigh. You never get hungry, she pressed. I can't trust your stomach at all. I know, Twist muttered. He had to admit that in his bachelor days he never eaten regularly, nor very healthily at all. He also seemed to fall ill less frequently these days and felt better overall now that Mira was caring for him. But then, Mira said, moving closer and pulling her hands free. She linked her fingers behind his neck and smiled sweetly from very near, while Twist's hands instinctively moved to her back and the warmth of her emotions smoldered against his sight. I'm only so strict to make you happy in the long run. I suppose I can let it go once, so long as that makes you happy too. Twist couldn't help but smile back to her. Thank you, darling. Mira chuckled and pulled away. Thank you for doing what I asked. It makes my job so much easier. Now you go on ahead, she said, patting his shoulder. I'll be there in a little bit to join you. I just want to finish this. Lovely, Twist remarked, while Mira turned her attention back to her plants. Twist did as he was told and headed to his cabin alone. He took his time getting ready for bed, listening to the soft whisper of wind at the wide bank of windows across the far wall. Eventually, he sat in bed and picked up his pillow to put his watch under it, as always. Twist paused, looking down at the watch before replacing the pillow over it. He'd always kept his pocket watch close at hand, even when he'd been a boy. At the time, he had no idea that it carried a powerful charm to hide him from the Fae. But even so, the unassuming little brass watch had always been a comfort to him. After all, growing up in an orphanage without even so much as a proper name, that watch had been the only thing that belonged to him. He looked around at the cabin, at everything in it, and the airship itself, staggered by just how far he'd come. The door opened and Mira entered. Oh, you're still awake, she said. I can't sleep without you now, can I? Twist put his pillow down where it belonged. Oh, of course not, Mira agreed. I'll just be a minute. Twist lay back under the covers and waited for her to get ready for sleep. The soft sounds of her moving about and humming to herself calmed him so deeply that he couldn't keep his eyes open at all. By the time she climbed into bed beside him, Twist was already half asleep. And here we are coming to the end of the reading stream. Again, tonight is the last night that we stream on the Takanome channels. Next week, we will only be streaming on the Taka Reads channels. So if you have not followed those channels, be sure to follow them if you want more reading stream in the future. Also, I want to thank you all for joining tonight, whether you're here live or listening to the VOD. I hope that you enjoy the story as well as the reading of the story. And as always, I do not support, but I appreciate actually all of the support that you guys give these channels. Again, This is more of a hobby for me, although I'm putting more work into it lately. But I still view this as a personal hobby and just a way to share unique stories. Erudite wrote, "Oh, good. The next chapter is kinda exciting. It'll be good to start with next time." Oh, that is good to hear. That is good to hear. And with that, we will be closing out. And again, next Saturday, we start up with only the new channels. And if you have a story yourself or you know someone who writes stories and you think that would be nice to have on the reading stream, be sure to message me on Blue Sky or the Twitch and YouTube channels. Sleep tight as well, Miss Robsy. Hope you have a good evening or night. And thank you all again. And with that, take care of each other, take care of yourselves, be safe out there, and I'll see you next time. Until then, bye bye.